Hi everyone, it's Cindy. Welcome back to Studioloo. I'm here today with another fairy journal flip through for you. This is Ice Fairy and the Heron. This journal was a lot of fun to make. It has overtones of blue. It is how many signatures? It is a 5 signature journal. It's not a gator mouth. I tried to keep it reasonable so that you could add things to it, but there is a lot of fun ephemera, and all of the pages are curated as typically by me, that there's not many plain pages, but you'll see as we go through. So the cover has been made from this beautiful book page, and it has bronze metal corners on the 2 front edges here. This spine, and down the side we have some lace. You can visibly see the 5 signatures. At the top we have a bronze eyelet, and on waxed linen I have tied all of these incredible beads. These are old typewriter keys, and it says Faye. And I have definitely not skimped on beads here. I went into my precious jewelry making bead collection, so there are many beads from shells and glass and vintage jewelry and all sorts. So they're very nice spine dangles. And then on back, so all this fabric is just this beautiful, it's actually a silk blend. It's a silk viscose blend, and I have stitched it on to the book. It's a book made from a book cover that I built, and yeah, I'm really happy with it. The closure is actually made from my hand spun yarn, and it's very easy to open. You just kind of pull it out, and I've wrapped it around a few times here. And at the back you'll see it goes through an eyelet so that it doesn't get detached in any way. It just hangs out there. So you'll see on the edge we have lots of ruffles. We have beaded charms. These are all hand beaded by me on head pins. So now we'll open it up, and this journal starts, this collection has the same kind of sort of entrance into the book. So they have a file folder that I've made on the inside with a field guide page on the inside as well. These are the tropical buntings, and another thing that I wanted to do with this was to try to celebrate Cecile Mary Barker, who inspired me to make this series of journals, by telling sort of the story of someone who is a fairy or is enthralled by fairies. So this is a vintage 1950s photograph of this beautiful woman, and she's just got her fairy wings here, and she's posing in the garden for a secret photo maybe. And then as we look onto the first page, this is some of the fairy paper that I've used throughout this book. You'll see it's very glitzy, iridescent, purple, shimmery. I've sewn some lace down the side and made a collaged pocket of watercolor and a Barker fairy here. And then this is a little journal card of a little fairy talking to a frog. And so that just tucks in there. And then we have a little flower here. And this is some handmade paper made with lots of leaves. And then we have a little fairy here. And she's very, she has all these little lights in her wings. This is cabbage dyed paper. And then in this book I've included some really fun pages from this story about a deer fawn and the practice of how mother deers will does will have their fawns kind of curl up in the long grass and wait for them while they bring them food. So this is kind of a story of a little fawn, and it's been included a little bit in this book. So here we have some vintage tea-dyed lace down the side, and the first of the charms in the book. And on this side we have this squirrel and some painty spot to write on. This is some fairy wing fabric. And then this is a little acorn pocket that has all these little bits and bobs inside. So we have a blackberry fairy, we have a porcupine, and then it's been embellished with like a mushroom, a pine cone, and this bit of pine here. And there's just a pocket there, see, and they tuck right in there. And here it says the magic doorway. This is a little book page of a tree stump that's been very beautifully painted. This is one of my clusters. It says floating on a leaf one day with a Barker fairy. Some coffee dyed paper with this beautiful ruffle down the side. And this is a fall fairy. A couple more of the Barker fairies. We have a little rabbit stamp here, and there's some little fairies here. And on this side we have this bit of sequined floral fabric, and this is a poem about fairies called Look Up. And then we have a little pocket here, and this Song of the Almond Blossom Fairy. And then this is a little envelope that I made with some lace, and it's made from sewing pattern paper. And inside we have this little journal tag of Cupid, who is obviously a famous little fairy. And then we have a little frog here on tea-dyed paper, and a leaf, some more of that fairy wing, and our little fawn. There's Mama coming back, hopping around. And then this is some cabbage dyed paper with some green woven fabric with a charm here. And another fairy. This page has some of my hand spun yarn stitched down the side, and this little belly band made from the Fairyopolis book, and it's Cicely Murray Barker's library card. And it has a purple flower back here, and this is a butterfly tag that has a fairy rhyme on it, and it's just a fun journal tag. And then some florals here, and more of that fairy paper. And then we're into the second signature now, so we have a large collage tuck spot with some little fairies there on more fairy paper. And this large journal card that's been watercolor painted and collaged. Some mushrooms, and just beautiful paper with some lace down the side. And another little pocket that's been watercolored and collaged, and a butterfly tag here that's been collaged as well. A little bird stamp on cabbage dyed paper. And there's our little fawn curled up in the woods. And some handmade paper here with all of this nice little fine plant material. This is some coffee dyed paper, but then on it there's this large piece of stationery, and this is from an illustration from a local Muskoka area author that was called Zelda and Isabella, and it was the story of the fairy Zelda and her friend, who is a dragonfly. And so I made a large piece of stationery with that for journaling. And then we have the Tansy Fairy. And then a little red clover fairy poem or verse. And then we have a little fairy here on watercolor. This is watercolor paper that's been coffee grid dyed. This is from Teal and Tattered for digital. And this is a little collaged pocket with some applique flowers on a collage background with this little tag. And we have a fairy here at the center, and I love her. She has antlers. And then this is some coloring book page with like really beautifully illustrated vegetation. And a little bird here on this beautiful page. Again, this is Teal and Tattered paper. And then some large lace on the watercolor dyed paper, and it has been stenciled on this side. More stenciling over here, and self-heal fairy. Some little, I don't know if you can see these, it's very light yellowy green, but there are fairies here. And a raccoon and some painted space to write on. More handmade paper and a little flower. And some cabbage dyed paper with some fabric down the side. This is a Pure Intention tarot card fairy here. It's a tuck spot for this tag on some beautiful digital paper. And then this is just a fabric flip made from some beautiful Cicely Mary Barker inspired fabric that was in Happy Mail. And then this is a little collage with a bird up here on the fairy paper. This is handmade paper, and it's so beautiful to touch. It's just got all these fine little bits of reed, and it's on a purple paper background, and I've stitched all these lovely flowers to the side. And then a pocket here, and this large journal card of Lord Penzance. Little green bugs there, they're so beautiful. And more teal and tattered paper. Cabbage dyed. This is from the Flower Fairies book. Dandelion, dog violet, dogwood, and it has some vintage fabric tab on the side with a charm. Elderberry. And then we have a little landscape pocket here that has this little image inside on a journal card, and it's this little girl riding on this beautiful adorned dove. And then some stenciling of birds. And then this is a fold out here. You see this little mouse. This is some painty page for writing on. And then a little pocket here. That's from Amity Bloom. And then another of that beautiful dove with a little fairy. And I love this little elfling hat and some just fun stitched on vintage lace up top. And on this side we have this chipmunk, and this is where some of the story comes in. There's also some pink lady slippers. I've been watching you. You've been alone for a long time, said the chipmunk, stuffing another acorn into his fat cheeks. I hear you're lost. He's talking to the baby deer, but we know the baby deer's not lost. He's just waiting for mom. And this is some eco-printed paper that I've done, eco-dyed rather, and then this is from a fairy book. It's you know, some book spines, a little fairy up here, and this is the center. What fairies dislike most: litter, bullying, selfishness, sad plants, cold iron, cruelty to animals. There's a little bird down there. And then a little tuck spot here with an Amity Bloom index card. I just love how these florals go with this whole theme. This is more of my eco-dyed paper, and it's got a very gray maroon kind of color, and these are can lids and some florals. And here's our little fawn. And a little pocket here from Amity Bloom, and these tags are also from Amity. And then this little this is a little tag from somewhere else that I can't recall, and it's on tea-dyed paper. And we have some vintage crochet lace along the side, some stenciling, periwinkle pinks, some more tea-dyed lace, and a little charm, plane tree, poplar, poppy. We have a dragonfly here, stenciling on cabbage dyed paper, more teal and tattered paper. This is a lost and found tarot card on handmade paper, and this is a large journal card with this glorious fairy. More flowers on handmade paper. This is a large journal card on the fairy paper with this little girl in a fairy ring of mushrooms. It's a large journal card. And then we have some botanical here, and this is black walnut dyed paper with some very glitzy fun fabric on the side. And another page from this deer story. Mom has come back. Actually, this is when Mama just has to leave. So I have to leave so Trouble's nose cannot find you. Stretch your legs, make them strong, but don't go far. Soon it will be your time to follow me. Her words were remembered as he drifted off to sleep. Okay, so cabbage dyed paper with a bottom tab and a little chipmunk stamp. Dull November brings the blast, then the leaves are whirling fast. Apple blossom fairy poem, avocado dyed paper with some nice fabric down the side, and some bird stamps here. This is a page from a really cute little fairy book of sort of these grandmother fairies collecting berries in the wood. And then more of this fairy community here. This is more of the sunburst cabbage dyed fabric with this green batik fabric down the side. I'm sorry, that's paper, not fabric. And then a little bit of floral there. Squirrel pocket with an Amity Bloom index card, and this fairy underneath here. And this is actually the fairy queen, the Irish goddess Anya. And a little pocket here with a fairy stamp and some botanical. The background is collage, and that is the tag inside. These lovely fairies. More cabbage dyed paper. This is just a fun book page. some stenciling, and a large journal card that's been clipped on some avocado paper. Another little fairy down here, and this is Gorse Fairy, and on the back, herb 2d, and a little bird here on more cabbage dyed paper. And there's our little fawn friend meeting up with a little baby raccoon, and it says the Lord and Lady of the Wood. And there's the little fawn in a spruce tree. This is some coffee dyed paper with lace, and just a little washi tape botanical collage on the back of the fairy paper. And there's that glitzy fairy paper with a pocket, and then this is a little fairy being chased by a witch. Some of my eco dyed paper and lace on the side, a snapping turtle with a dragonfly on her back, and some painty paper to write on. Who do I see? Who did the little owl, the little saw-it owl? Someone's moving through my woods. I saw it, I saw it. Who's coming through the woods? Where? Bleated the fawn. Suddenly a shadow darkened the warm sun. This is a little vintage botanical card on some green paper, some more botanicals, cabbage dyed paper with some fabric on the side. This is a vintage book page from an Enid Blyton fairy book. The chapter is called A Beak is as Good as Fingers, and it has this cute illustration. On back, a pocket with this little tag, and it has a little postcard inside. It just tucks in there. Coffee dyed paper with some vintage lace fabric on the side. This is a divination tarot card from the Fairy Tarot. Some stenciling here in this little fairy. And this beautiful spread of these fairies. And this is a door with two little fairies peeking through. Some mushrooms. A belly band with a fairy postcard of vetch inside. Another of those vintage book pages. This is a sea anemone, a fairy looking up at a sea anemone. Cabbage dyed paper. A vintage botanical image on some green paper and a little botanical there. And this Mother Canada goose saying, it's time, shrieked the red-winged blackbird, which is right over here. Ready? Asked Mother Doe. There's so much to see. So she comes back for her baby. And there is another page of eco dyed paper. On back we have a pocket. Where do fairies go to when the stars come out at night? They gather all together and dance in the moonlight. And in here we have another field guide page. These are the wing-barred vireos and a little blue butterfly. And those just tuck on in there. And that is the end of this journal, The Ice Fairy and the Heron. So I hope you enjoyed that. I absolutely love how this journal came out. It's a lot of fun to make. This will be going up in my Etsy shop now. If you're seeing this video, it's probably already there. So yeah, this is exciting that this fairy journal collection has finally come to fruition. I'm very happy with how they've all turned out. So thank you again for joining me, and you can find all of my links below, including the shop, down in the description box. Have a great day. Bye-bye.